Hi, good afternoon. Welcome all. Today is a very important topic based on the recent incident which has happened in Belgaum, the terrorist attack. India has suspended the Indus Water Treaty. It has repealed it from Pakistan. So the UPSC question which can pop up from this is not about what is a terrorist activity and how the incident happened, but on the other side, what is important is there have been a lot of questions on Indus Water Treaty. So let's get into some in-depth analysis of what is this treaty about and how has it influenced both the countries, India and Pakistan. And with the repeal of this particular treaty or stopping of this treaty, how is it going to affect Pakistan as well as India's relations? So let's have a small glance. So Indus Water Treaty, IWT, signed in 1960. Let's go with respect to what are the most important points which are useful for your UPSC exam. First, Indus Water Treaty, it was initiated by former World Bank President Eugene Black. So please remember this name. This name is very important. So Eugene Black, and if you want to have a glance at the photo of him, he's the man, EV, Eugene Black. So he was a guy or the eminent personality was actually negotiated this treaty for India as well as Pakistan. So moving on. Now, what happens is the lot of water treaty is all about distribution of water. Which rivers, before pre-independence, Pakistan was a part of India though. So rivers were used by both the teams till the partition happened. So based on that, especially from 1947, 1948 war which happened, it so happened that Pakistan had wanted its own resources, India wanted its own resources. Therefore, there was a little bit of battle and therefore the negotiation was started by Eugene Black and was under the guidance of the World Bank. So let's look at the most important points. So 99 billion cubic meters was allocated to western rivers, Indus, Jhelum, as well as Chenab. And this was given to Pakistan. So 99 billion cubic meters allocated to the western rivers. So for your exam, western rivers, what are the western rivers? Indus, Jhelum, as well as Chenab were given to Pakistan. While eastern rivers, Ravi, Bias as well as Satluj were allocated to India. So you need to remember these. We all know the names because they are very popular rivers. But which river was given to whom? In the sense, the diversion of river from the channels and its own tributaries going on to which country and is controlled by which country. The resource of water can be utilized by whom and for what purposes. So keeping that in mind, so western rivers, Indus, Jhelum as well as Chenab to Pakistan. Eastern rivers, Ravi, Bias, Satluj allocated to India. Now, if you observe, these eastern rivers got only 30%. That means India was allocated only 30%, while 70%, approximately 70% was given to Pakistan. So in spite of the battle which went on, we all decided to give more water to Pakistan. In spite of lesser population, in spite of heavier population in India, we have taken little and given maximum to Pakistan. So that shows that we never left their hand. We still cared for them. That is what we have to understand here. The spirit of brotherhood, we never left. Even today, we still believe that one day they'll realize and stop all this nonsense that these people are doing. So, keeping that in mind, now, it also includes connecting the lakes as well as tributaries. And this 30%, by the way, is approximately 41 billion cubic meters. So 41 billion we got and 99 billion was given to Pakistan. And the associated lakes and tributaries were also connected to this number. Now, the treaty allows each country only limited use on rivers. For example, certain uses like agriculture, irrigation, domestic use, etc. If they wanted to use anything beyond this regular uses, like an exception, then exception situation, it requires a little bit of clearance. For example, contentious upper land objection. Now, when there is upper land, what happens is the river water reduces a little bit, and therefore the side water which moves on can be utilized even though it is not under their control. So for such kind of uses, that government has to take clearance from this government. So keeping that in mind. So the treaty is endurable despite many tense situations. So this part we all have to understand. So India and Pakistan for a long time, we always have some kind of tensions, even if the governments don't fight, the people don't fight. There is someone from the other side who always creates a problem. There is always a social group which creates terror. There is always some individual who instigates people, and that creates a chaos within the calmness which should have existed between India and Pakistan. So even under tense situations, this distribution of water is not disturbed. So even in tense situations, the water is not disturbed. So keeping this in mind, please remember from this slide, most important thing is it was initiated by former World Bank President Eugene Black. That's the first important point. 99 cubic meters allocated to the western rivers, which are Indus, Jhelum, as well as Chenab. So for you to remember, Pakistan got IJC, Indus, Jhelum, and Chenab, while India got BRS, Ravi Bias Satluj or Bias Ravi Satluj. So please remember it like that. It will make your work easy. Now, moving on to the next important part. Now, how the treaty works. How does it work? Now, in that I told you 41 billion to India, 30% of the total Indus Valley, and Pakistan gets approximately 99 billion. This is how the treaty has been designed. Now, how do you implement? Now the allocation has been done, but how do you actually implement it, and how does the mechanism work? So let's have a small glance at that also. So implementation, both the nations must share data on the water usage every month and monthly with this permanent Indus Commission. This is very, very important. So you might get a prelims question from this also. So both the nations must share data on water usage monthly with the permanent commission. So the question can be, is in this commission a temporary commission or a permanent commission? So it's a permanent commission. So the word permanent is very, very important. Now the commissions is composed of representatives from both the countries. Both the countries' representatives will be there from both the countries. But here is the best part. If there is a question, the questions will be handled by the commission. Similarly, if there are differences between these two nations, they are addressed by a neutral expert, usually appointed through the World Bank. So please try to understand, if there are questions, it should be handled by the commission. If there are differences between the two nations, initiator was World Bank, therefore, whenever there are differences, the World Bank will come and say, dude, this is what you have to do, dude, this is what you have to do. That's how it's going to happen. And if there are disputes, please look at this, 1, 2, and 3. The first one is about questions, the second one is about differences, and the third one is about disputes. If there is a dispute between the two countries, then an ad hoc, that means a temporary committee, tribunal, and that is known as Court of Arbitration. This tribunal is called Court of Arbitration, and this disputes will be handled by the Court of Arbitration between two countries. So very, very important for UPSC. If there are questions, it is handled by the commission. If there are differences, it is handled by a neutral expert who is usually appointed by the World Bank. If there are disputes, it will be handled by the ad hoc commission, ad hoc tribunal, which is called Court of Arbitration. So these are the three major points which are useful, very, very useful for your prelims. Now, what we have to understand is the role of World Bank is very, very limited. The only work is it can appoint a person to resolve the disputes. That's the only thing that World Bank right now can do. So from this slide, the most important thing is how the water thing is designed. And how it has to be implemented. Data must be shared, and if there are questions, then for representatives from both the countries should be sitting in the commission. If there are questions, the commission will decide. If there are differences, the neutral expert will decide. And if there are disputes, the ad hoc court of arbitration will decide. The role of World Bank is very, very limited. That is what students of UPSC who's preparing for UPSC have to know. Right. Moving on. Now, looking at this, the way the treaty was held, Eisenhower, you remember, the President of the United States, once upon a time, Eisenhower described this treaty as one bright spot in a very depressing world picture that we see so often. So, World War II, after that, India and Pakistan, the kind of loss which has happened, the kind of tragedy the world has seen, during that very sad times, Indus Water Treaty between India and Pakistan is considered to be one of the biggest bright spot. Like it was like a shine in darkness. So that is what he meant. So try to understand the essence of Indus Water Treaty. It's such an important thing for two countries of which one country is based itself and it has separated based on the concept of religion. While India stood by its own terms of secularism, keeping all the public very happy, at the same time trying to still treat Pakistan even today as a brother. So keeping that in head, let's move on. What are the major points? It was signed in 1960. It was signed in Karachi, so prelims question, by Nehru as well as President Ayub Khan. So that is what you have to understand. Most of them think it is Motilal Nehru. No, it was Mr. Ayub Khan. Right. Now, it was mediated by World Bank, considered one of the most successful water treaties till date. Very, very successful water treaties in date. So that is the reason why these points are very important. Now, why are we discussing all these things? That is because of the Baisaran Valley incident, the recent terrorist attack done by Kashmir Resistance Group. Those bad and sad and cynical people who wore military dresses came, shot 27 people dead, another 40 injured, going into a region by name Pahalgam. What we have to understand is Pahalgam is a whole region of which Baisaran is the place, Baisaran Valley is the place where the incident happened. This Baisaran Valley is also called mini Switzerland. We have seen horrific incidents where a young couple was killed, a Navy officer was killed, just for the heck of it, just a sadistic pleasure. In spite of India being so friendly, in spite of India being so compassionate, in spite of India being so patient for a long time, look at what these terror organizations are doing to our country and for our people. Loss of a Navy officer, what the families have to go through. What about those 27 people who died? What about their families? Very, very innocent. And before they killed, they were asking what religion you are. And in spite of that, one of the Muslims who was dead was trying to protect the others from the terrorists. Look at the kind of things that these anti-social groups have been doing. Look at the way these cynical people do, supported by Lakshar-e-Toiba, Kashmir Resistance, that's a group's name. They have been induced with so much hate for the country, so much hate for religion, so much hate for any other religion. Look at what these people have done. That's like not accepted at all. So now looking at this, such a horrific incident happening in such a beautiful place, death of so many our own public. Vikram Misri, the Foreign Secretary, announced a suspension of this treaty. Now that is, and India I'm sure is going to take a very, very strong stand on this. Mr. Modi, the Prime Minister, Amit Shah, all of them have stood. They'll be handling this issue with due diligence. At the same time, I'm sure the government is going to show a very strong iron hand on Pakistan and ISI and all those organizations supporting those LETs and these anti-social groups like Kashmir Resistance and all these guys. So I'm sure The culprits will be caught as soon as possible, and whatever has to be done will be done. Yeah, keeping that in mind. So have a important, Eisenhower described this treaty. So you can use this in essays if there is a question in Indus Valley Treaty. So you can use this for your essay, you can use it for your mains, you can use it for your prelims. About this, Karachi signing, Nehru as well as President Ayub Khan, mediated by World Bank, most successful water treaties considered as, and the incident sparked this kind of repealing of the treaty. Now moving on, what is the background? The actual disturbance started during Indo-Pak War, 1947-48, after partition. So the root issue is water dispute for Indo-Pak. Now the West Punjab versus East Punjab has become one of the major issues. I'm sure all of you know. Whole Punjab was divided into West and East. East we got it, West they got it. So end of the day, it belongs to us. So East Punjab shut down the Western Canal to West Punjab, and later they reopened it after 5 weeks. So after the war, they stopped it so that the flow reduced. And then after a lot of negotiations, they had to reopen it. Now, because they had to reopen it, the condition was Pakistan had to attend a conference called Indo-Dominion Conference for negotiation, for which Pakistan has agreed. So this shutting down led to the attending of Pakistan for a negotiation conference. So this is what really happened there. So keeping this in mind, so that's the background. So Indo-Pakistan after partition, root issue, Indo-Pak water dispute. East and West Punjab, they shut down the Western Canal. That means we shut down the Western Canal so that they'll have the pinch of it. And then attend Indo-Dominion Conference. That is what Pakistan did. Now, this is how the map runs. Now, as you see, Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, all moving towards the west. And if you see Ravi, Bias, and Satluj moving towards right. So these are called Western, and these are called Eastern rivers. And along with all these main rivers, their tributaries also will have to be taken into action. That means the contributions of the tributaries will also become a part of this. And most importantly, if you observe the whole scenario historically, and we have observed all the incidents, India has always played a very, very, very secular role. And India has played a very beautiful foreign policy based on ethics of brotherhood. And that is what we have been reflecting from times immemorial till date and in future also to the rest of the world. Saying that in spite of the governments who are anti-India, in spite of the violence they have been creating, we have still been patient enough. And the retaliation has not been as severe, but still, we are still believing that at some point of time, these people are going to change. So that is one point. And even in the river water disputes, if you observe, though we had less, many number of times, many incidents, we have always had the upper hand of donating the water or releasing the water into Pakistan, especially when they are in crisis. In spite of they having lot of water resources, we having lesser water resources, 99 and 41. In spite of that, India has always had a very high upper hand, especially when they are in trouble. We made sure they are never, our friendship has never left. And we made sure the supply was done. And especially during food crisis, water crisis, irrigation problems, India has always been a helping hand to Pakistan and the entities of Pakistan. So the real problem is not with the people of Pakistan. It is with the governments of Pakistan and the other entities which are associated with this country, and especially the terrorist organizations which indirectly are being supported by some entities within the government of Pakistan. So the real problem lies there. Those people create so much havoc in the country, loss of life, and that's very, very sad to hear. But in spite of all this, India has always maintained a fair foreign policy, and we have always made sure the secular attitudes, whether it is Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Sikh, Isai, anyone, it doesn't matter, we make sure that the fundamental principles of constitution are always maintained. And that's the kind of fantastic foreign policy and foreign diplomacy that India always has maintained till date. I'm sure it is going to maintain in future. But this time, with this incident, I'm sure the government is going to take a very, very, very strong action against the culprits and the crime doers, making sure they're brought to justice. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.